Hi everyone, it's Natalie here. Welcome. If you're new and there are several new subscribers, thank you. Welcome. I hope that you find content on the channel to be like uplifting and interesting, at the very least. Maybe even amusing at times, who knows. I'm sitting on the floor today because I've got a puppy dog who wants snuggles. Look at the camera, Henry. Henry. Oh, dear it is. Yeah. You need snuggles from Mama? Yeah. Okay. Because he's feeling warm, that it actually is going to make him feel warmer by snuggling up to Mommy, but he wants snuggles. I think he has a bellyache from Mom and Dad's house last night because he ate a lot of verboten items that he probably shouldn't have. Like a lot of dairy products and so forth. So, so we're going to snuggle down here for a little while today to start with. I just felt like I needed to come on and do like an update because I was really cooking. I was really cooking there at the beginning of the year, and then I kind of went away. A number of things happened. Hi, sugar. A number of things happened. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. It's just been a really interesting time. It's been a really interesting time. Um, I have found that with the working a job where I'm in contact with the public all the time, and helping treat them and take care of them, that when when there is another like wave of coronavirus that moves through, initially I go into a shock, then I go and hit the ground running, and I'm doing all the things and keeping up with all the stuff, and then I hit a like, where it becomes really hard to keep up with everything, and I start to go, error, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then I kind of just start to sound like the Millennium Falcon when the when the in Star Wars when the hyperdrive goes out, where it's like and I kind of am not as on top of stuff, and so I just start to slow down and do what's necessary to keep up, but not just keep up, like keep it together, in order to just go about the day-to-day thing. It's really, really challenging to try and stay compassionate with people in the middle of all of this, because everyone is stressed. There's no one on earth, I think, at this point, who has not encountered with an increased stress level. There's no point in weighing up, but this person has more to deal with, or these people have more to handle, or this person had more deaths to deal with, or this person got sick and didn't recover. It doesn't really seem to matter, because everyone seems to experience the stress of trying to live through the pandemic. It doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter. And their level of ability, what did I say, level? I guess just their general ability to keep up with it and keep up with on top of the stress and keep on top of managing the stress depends on how much they had before the pandemic started, how adept they are at managing stress generally, and how much extra stuff came down on them during the pandemic, which, by the way, we're not out of. Everyone in the United States, especially where I live, is behaving as though it's all done. We're done with the pandemic. We're not. We're not. I think we've become better at handling it, but we're far from out of it, and I think I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but it's interesting to me how, I think when everyone is kind of wrapped up in their own stress, the tendency is to not be able, in some cases, not all, but, in a lot of cases, is not to be able to see the stress that other people are under as well.
maybe they're not showing it, or maybe they're better at managing it generally. But to assume that some people maybe aren't experiencing it in the way that you are is something that again, we've come into contact with. Like, oh, you guys run an office that heals people. That must mean that you don't feel any stress and you don't have any like health problems, or you don't, there's nothing for you all to worry about, etc. And I can just bring all of my crap here and dump it, and that's fine. And to some extent, that's the case, because that is what you do in a healing office. And to another extent, like, I really do, I appreciate more than I ever have before the patients that we have who are able to see us not as just some kind of, they're not projecting something onto us. They're just accepting us as human beings with lives and our own stresses and things to work through. I guess that's a good way to put it. So that's been nice. That's been really nice. When we don't have that, and we instead have the people who are projecting something, it's a little harder. I'll be honest. It's a little harder to manage. It's a little harder to be with. Yeah, it can be a lot. It can be a lot. So staying in a place that's not complete, trying to find a way to manage that so that I'm my own inner resources are not being drained to the point that there's nothing left, is kind of been the goal. And so managing that has been an ongoing situation, so I guess, so the last few months I started to weigh, like, is this something, is doing XYZ going to be something that helps me relieve some stress or feel a little bit more on top of what I need to do? Or is it going to add to my stress level? Because then it creates more stuff that I will experience as being stuff that weighs on top of me that I have to take care of, right? Or is it something that will leave me feeling fulfilled, excited, interested in the world, etc. So that's kind of how I've weighed things up. I think I mentioned in the video that I made yesterday about, it's still sitting here on my desk because I haven't had a chance to work with it yet, but I made the video about the embroidered graveyard oracle. And I'm super excited about working with that deck, but I did mention in there, like, I've been looking for ways to do camera angles, facing down without using my laptop, which is what I'm on right now. And so I've run into trouble with my cell phone, because if I want to make a video on the cell phone, it takes so long to upload. If I try to do it directly from the cell phone to YouTube, if I try to download and then put it, from the phone, put it into iMovie on my laptop, etc., that too has been really janky and not predictable. So like back in November, maybe I made a long, video with the top 10, only 10 decks hashtag. And it's still sitting there because I can only get about 5 of the videos out of, because I just would film one, and then I was like, okay, I'll just use transitions to fill in the blanks. So all of those videos are sitting either in my phone or in my photos app on the laptop, or they're, it's just become a big to-do. And I can't seem to get it all pulled together. That's so frustrating. Similarly, I filmed a bunch of walkthroughs of decks that I was really excited about, where I was like, yay, and I can just do, and I think I did all of it in one day or over the period of about 4 or 5 days, and still couldn't get it to upload. I've Googled things, etc. It's just, there's something going on there, and it's become annoying. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, other people are using different means for doing this. So I looked that up, and, there's 1,000,001 desktop cameras that film documents and stuff from that angle, and I know a lot of people use them. So I tried ordering one. I ordered a Hue document camera. I thought, oh my God, this is perfect. What they don't say in any of the advertising is that it's not going to work with a Mac system that's, as updated as the one I have. And so after taking forever to get it here, and then it was such a hoo-ha. It was such a hoo-ha, and I did it during Mercury retrograde. Very, very stupid mistake. Should never do those things during Mercury retrograde. It's just not going to work. So yeah, that happened. And then I just kind of got, when you're just depleted by something and you just think, okay, I'm going to just move on from this. No big deal. Such things are known to happen. Let it go. And then I got sort of, by that point I was in the soup. I was in the soup. And about the time I started, always the case. I'm really being careful right now because it's like, oh, I'm starting to feel like I come out of my shell again. And like I have something to give back again. Then the invasion of Ukraine happened. And that was another one where I know it hit everybody. It's hit the whole world, everyone, and still is. And isn't it interesting how at some point we start to normalize it? It starts to become like, okay, this is real, this is happening, and the brain says, okay, it's not new anymore. We can we can run it as a background program. You thinking of the brain as a computer is kind of an interesting interesting thing to do because that meditation bench is starting to look real good back here. I might have to pull it up and grab it because I'm still on my knees. And I don't think I'm going to be able to sneak in pull my chair out under my desk here. Let's see if I can do this without being horrifically awkward. Ooh, not the worst. Oh, I have my little padding under there. Yay. Okay. So yeah, we run we run this program in the background of the brain, that says, here are the things. Wow. I'm so like, let's see. There we go. Computer programs in the brain that are like, oh, you have all those things, all the different apps and all the different programs and software pulled up at one time. It starts to slow down the functioning of the entire system, right? Because there's so much happening. That's how I feel. And I think that's how most people feel, right? We're not aware of how many programs we have up and running at one time in the brain and what kind of a toll that takes on our ability to just function and be human. I think it really creates a lot of anxiety for people. I don't know anyone right now who doesn't experience anxiety or depression. I think at this point, I'm somehow more inclined to experience things and in a less of an anxious state and more of a, like, I guess a depressive, like less energy kind of state. I haven't experienced a lot of anxiety since 2020. And since then it's really been less that and more sadness or depression. I guess there's a little bit of anxiety, but it's not the clinical kind that I have experienced in past. It's more of a low level anxiety that sort of underpins everything. Just being honest, because that's just real, and every effort that I make to mitigate it or manage it or work with it has helped. It has helped tremendously, but I think the reality of getting, being free of it completely has eluded me. And I think, again, a lot of people, whether they're trying to manage it or not manage it or whatever. So yeah. Yeah, I mentioned that because like the experience that other people have, I guess because I'm very sensitive, is that I don't, if other people are experiencing a lot of stress, it's not that I'll experience it with them necessarily in quite the same way, but I can't I can't look away from it. I can't not acknowledge it or feel it. And I see it everywhere. I see it everywhere. And it's really distressing. Yeah, there's just a lot going on. There's a lot going on. There are good things going on too. You know, but I have experienced the last few months as being a little more stressful than I had hoped, I guess. The good news is I have not been sick. I had that one cold that I was online about. You know, I don't remember when that was. It was during maybe the gratitude challenge. I think that's when it was. It was so weird to have a cold after not being sick with anything for 2 years. Really weird, really strange experience. And Oop, there we go. And it was a reminder of, you know, like how fortunate I've been to be able to do my work and do the things I do without being sick. So definitely a bonus. That said, you know, we're still seeing a lot of patients who have post-COVID syndrome in varying degrees of severity, including really young people, teenagers. We have a young mother who's 32 and has a 5-year-old boy with autism, and she's got horrific post-COVID syndrome. And you know, it's all she can do, you know. So of course, like, coming to natural health practitioners to try and find a way through that is a natural thing to want to do, and it's been I think very helpful for this person. We seem to have been able to help a lot of people recover their well-being through nutrition and you know, acupuncture and chiropractic and referral to different practitioners than us that we know have specialties in other areas where it seems that person has a vulnerability, that kind of thing, which has been great. You know, that's been great, but it does give you a lot of pause. You know, we're still masking at work every day. When we have a sense that someone has come in with COVID, we double mask. If they tell us they have COVID or have had COVID recently, we double mask. There's a lot that we don't know about this disease and its implications over time. I think what I find frustrating is when people come in and say that they've had it and it wasn't a big deal and everything's fine. I don't understand why everybody gets so upset. You know, just get it, get over it, and let's all move on. Because that it completely negates the experience of any other human being and dismisses it as irrelevant. And that's not fair. You know, that's deeply unfair. Another patient we have who's only 40, and again, very healthy, in great health before the pandemic, fully vaccinated. All of these people I'm talking about, by the way, too, are fully vaccinated and boosted. So just putting that out there. But the person I'm thinking of now is 40, again, fully vaccinated and boosted, severe post-COVID, only just now coming out of it. And that was from the Omicron, right? Not from Delta, but from Omicron. We have Delta patients too, who are recovering from having had Delta back in, like, you know, October, November. It's just ugly. It's an ugly, ugly virus. But, you know, this person has, you know, was hit really hard, but a lot of her colleagues were not. And so the kind of bullying that she's getting at work, you know, it's not just the virus that's the problem. It's like it's the compounding stress, you know, and the collateral damage around it that I think is popping up all these. It's like pop-up windows, you know, when you hit the wrong website, you know, on a PC, and all the pop-ups start. You know, it's like that. So for her, she's being kind of bullied and pushed around at work because, you know, for weeks after she had the virus, she would hit a certain point in the day and she was just done. Her body was done and she needed to collapse and sleep. And they really didn't quite get that. It's like, well, but we're fine. So what's your problem? That just blows my mind. And this is part of the nastiness of this virus, is that you just don't know how it's going to hit people, right? You don't know if it's going to be mild, move on, and they'll never experience anything from it again, or if it's going to be mild and then they end up with weird post-COVID symptoms that sometimes are even worse than the actual initial illness was itself. We've seen that. You never know if it's going to be really severe and acute and then clear up and you're fine. You don't know when it won't land you sort of in hospital, sometimes even with a vaccine, because different immune systems and different comorbidities create different outcomes. So, yeah, I mean, it is a public health crisis, and I think clearly, obviously, I don't talk about it very much with anybody besides my mom and dad and Tom and the doc, and that's it. So, yeah, it's really upsetting. It's really upsetting to be around and see the way that people not only have been impacted, but just the level of disregard for other people's experiences of it. And I get it. We all have a certain amount of compassion fatigue, or just compassion numbness even, which I think is possibly even a step beyond the fatigue I'm finding. I have to perpetually kind of come back and remind myself, like, whoa, hang on, come back. So that's why I haven't been making many videos. Because when it comes down to it, I would rather practice and stay in a state that's not too awful than try to present something false and keep up with a narrative that isn't authentic. And sometimes I'm not really ready to deal with even sharing or managing the authentic narrative because it's just not ready for consumption by others yet. So, yeah, that's kind of been where it is. Have a sip of water now. I'm also happy for people who've managed to stay like in a like really buoyant, happy state through all of this. If you have, like, good for you, genuinely good for you, because there's got to be some somewhere. And it is important to acknowledge things that are happy, that are fun, that are and let them nourish us. And I do that. Itchy nose. There's all the allergens coming out now. Whew. So yeah, so what have I been up to? All sorts of things. But most of them had nothing to do with tarot except for reading for clients, so I've kept up with reading for clients when clients come up. It's always a joy. It's always humbling. And it seems like the folks that I've been reading for lately are people who are in a really acute situation and desperately need guidance from spirit. So that's been really beautiful and uplifting, to be a vessel for that. Also why it's important, like, I can't, you got to look at where you're spreading your energy and not spread it so thin that there's nothing left when people are really in a state of crisis, right? So yeah, there's been that. That's been really beautiful and uplifting. I think every tarot reading I've done over the last couple of months has really had that quality to it, and left me feeling really happy that I'm and humbled, by having that to offer. The doula work has been kind of unfulfilling, to be honest, in its own way. I have a grief client who's experiencing profound grief, or has been. And he's also very good at going back into denial about it. So it's challenging to be with and figure out what to do to be helpful to her. The family spends a lot of time saying things like, can you do this or can you do that? You know, can you make her blah, 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 right? Like, because the person's elderly, they should, you know, they're somehow now expected to answer to some sort of authoritarian means of controlling their life, right? Which, please don't do that to your elders if you can avoid it at all. Please, please, please don't do that to your elders. We have conversations about it every now and again, but ultimately what I end up having to do is just say to the client, you know, the elder, you know, look, I'm not going to force, you know, you're a grown up. I'm not going to force you to do certain things or talk to you like you're an idiot, because that's not reasonable. It's not fair, and it's not respectful. So balancing that has been interesting. I realized recently that I was being a little bit passive aggressive in the way that I was handling that case. Kind of like, well, if they're not calling me, I'm not going to pick up the phone. Because I can find that case to be a little bit stressful at moments. And I just don't want to acknowledge it. Because it's like, if I acknowledge the stress, then I have to actually feel it, experience it, and let it move on. But if I can kind of push it off to one side, then maybe I won't experience it as much. So I kind of had to work through that a little bit in order to be able to come back to the client and say, like, okay, here we go. Let's organize this schedule a little bit better and put the following things into place. Similarly, I have another client who is just now beginning to enter an active dying stage. So I've been kind of companioning the spouse of the client for some time, and helping him. I don't know if that's audible or not. I think Tom just went into the kitchen. Anyway, this man is taking care of his wife in the home as she's in a really steep decline through dementia, and she's a complete delight. She's not a difficult dementia patient, which is rare and lovely. So he doesn't have a lot of contact with other human beings, and so whenever we talk on the phone or I go over to the house, I'm sort of met with this onslaught of unmet needs, you know, and energetic, like, you know, that comes out of that, and it's a lot to be with, and a lot to recover from when that happens. So it has kind of left me questioning the work I do and how sustainable that really is. I realized, I guess, after 2020, like, I don't think I want to be a doula full time, even again, like, even if that's a possible option. It's too much. It's too much. I would rather kind of go along and work with people as it's needed here or there, which is kind of what I've been doing in the last several, I guess, 6 months. That seems to work better. I also realize it's, you know, another thing I've kind of come to over the last few months, since entering a death card year, hey, is I need to get back into doing the things that really feed me and fuel me and leave me feeling excited. And like I'm alive, you know, like I'm not the one who's dead or dying. I'm alive, you know, I'm here. I have a life to live. I have things I can accomplish and do and so forth. There's been too much death and too much caregiving and spending time in that realm over the last year and a half, over the last couple of years. And I really have a need to kind of like, where's the life part of this? Because I need that. And that's important. I really miss teaching, so I recognize a need to find a way to create an outlet for that. So there will inevitably be updates about it, but that's also why I really have wanted to do all of the Marielle videos. I have a whole series of videos planned around the Buddha. I'm just grabbing it because I need to hold it just to talk about it. The Buddha Tarot, because I know at some point there's going to be a release of that. I just don't know when my copy will eventually arrive. But yeah, just knowing more about Tibetan Buddhism and the system that's being applied is going to be a lot of fun. So I've been looking forward to that. But I also realized too, like I need to be doing more with artwork, and I need to come back to that. Last fall, I had started, late last summer, early fall, I had started doing a bunch of writing projects. And I started another writing project at the beginning of this year. All of them are related to my practice, um, but they're all in completely different realms and areas that I don't feel I'm ready to talk about just yet. Um, but it led me back to doing more with my fiber arts and fiber artwork, which is really exciting. Printmaking, bookmaking, needlework, embroidery work, stitch work, etc. It also led back to working more with plants and coming back to the connection I feel to plants, um, and how all of those things seem to relate to, spirits of the land, the Davic realms, etc. And so I feel like probably what's going to happen too is at some point I will begin to talk more about that on the channel, and discuss it in more depth or in greater depth. Um, yeah, and I think there may be classes around that. So if you're interested in something, I guess I should just ask, would you guys be interested in classes that are, kind of witchy, that are about, finding ways to create things for, through your practice, for your practice, that increase your connection to plants and to the land and the earth and the spirits of plants and the land and the earth, while making and creating things. Is that something that sounds good? Yeah, I, I did run a class on that one time back in 2016 for the St. Louis Artists Guild, and it was a beautiful class. It was so beautiful. And I really miss that type of environment because I was able to work with all the different types of artists and all the different media they like to work with. And it was marvelous. We learned, we worked with meditation and contemplation of different things. So I'll talk more about that at some point. Probably whether or not anyone really says anything about wanting to, because maybe you don't know what it is. And introducing it can be good. Yeah, so there's that. There's that. I think that's probably it. There's not a whole lot else to really share. It's just been kind of crazy. I've gone a lot more deeply. I do tend to retreat and go more deeply into my practice to try and manage things in the world when things are bad or difficult. So when I'm here and I'm able to create an offer, then it's, that I'm like, that's sincere and I'm here. When things get kind of funky and weird and difficult and I begin to kind of pull back, you know why that is as well. So I think most of you probably do by now anyway, but you just never know. You just never know. Yeah, I think that's probably it. That's probably it. I think I may do a follow-up video to this one where I just kind of take take the benighted cell phone and its camera and just show you some of the stuff I've been doing around with like different projects and how those projects are going, and maybe my plants, because I've been having so much fun. You can kind of see like my geraniums are happy back there. I have this is a white geranium, and then back up here I've got a bright pink one. The lighter pink ones are kind of quiet. They're not blooming right now, but they seem okay. They seem pretty happy. Not like it at my mom's house where hers are just like bursting constantly with blooms everywhere and growing wildly through the winter. Mine just don't seem to do that. I don't know why. Probably she thinks I may be watering them too much. So that's possible. I suppose I could be drowning them just a little bit. Yeah, because they have deeper roots than some of the ones I've had in past where I was just literally rooting them and putting them in the windowsill. But yeah, I have a big collection of succulents that I don't really talk much about. I've mostly talked about my geraniums, but I'm a lover of succulents. Most of what you see back behind there in the windowsills and so on are all succulents. Obviously my like draping trailing ones right there, which is like a heap of different types of succulents. I've got like, I don't know. I've got, there's a whole heap of them. There's a whole bunch of them in there. Most of the string of hooks are the ones that you're seeing there now, like the string of fish hooks, but there are others in there as well. There's like string of pearls is in there, and string of turtles is in there, and string of hearts was in there at some point. String of dolphins is in there. There's a lot of different ones. A ruby, string of ruby something. I don't know. Anyway, there's a bunch of draping long ones. I've got to trim those up and put them in other pots. But yeah, a lot of stuff. A lot of fun stuff. A lot of stuff in general. Ooh, that was an interesting little light thing that came through. I don't know if anyone else saw that. It came up in front of my face this way. I never saw anything with the naked eye. Huh. Maybe my plant's just saying hi. Who knows? Every now and again that happens, and I usually don't end up using those videos for some reason, but I'm definitely going to use this one. Anyhow, interesting. It went kind of off that direction, and something just fell over there. So, who knows? But yeah. So, yeah, there we go. More videos with like all the plants and stuff, and maybe some pets, and who knows. But yeah, that's what's happening here. So I hope everybody is doing well and hanging in there. And yeah, tons and tons of love to you. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.